First and foremost, thanks to everybody who's been wishing Julie and I a happy anniversary. We really had an excellent trip, and it's one that has allowed me to sit back, download, and consume all the amazing Final Fantasy Media Tour content. And so today's video, this video specifically, is going to be my thoughts and impressions of the Asmongold and Rich YoshiP interview. If you guys have not seen that interview, I will link to it in the top link of this video. You absolutely should give it a watch. I'm not going to react to it. I'm going to just give my overall thoughts, hitting on a few key points, things that I took away, but also as somebody who's been covering this game for 11 years, give you guys a little bit of context as to some of the answers and how I interpret them, both as a software engineer and as a longtime veteran, because veterans came up a lot in this interview, and I think that there's some interesting points that I'd like to share with you guys. Before we dive into the video, though, I do want to say thank you to Ethan, WG Projections. I don't know why I tripped over that. And K-Groove. So Ethan and WG, you guys are incredible. Thank you guys so much. 16 months of support here in the membership. And then K-Groove just joining on the last stream. I'm going to try to be thanking you guys and doing some more stuff for members here on the channel. It really is. You guys are above and beyond. And then everybody else, I've got a special gift for you guys at the end of this video. Returning subscribers know what's up. New subscribers might, they'd be like, what is this? So anyway, it's a part of it. You if you know, you know, and you know. All right. First and foremost, Asmon's interview, Rich's interview, wholesome as all get out. This was incredible. If I was going to start to tier list like interviews, this is definitely S tier quality content. A lot of other really good ones. I haven't finished all the interviews. I downloaded all of them onto my phone because we were traveling. I've been away from my computer for about a week and a half. So it just gave me the ability to just really try to overconsume. And so we were doing a lot of traveling. Thus, I've been able to kind of get caught up on it. So this is, we'll cover more interviews, especially if there's one you want me to talk about specifically, let me know in the comments. But anyway, wholesome as all get out. That is something where at the start of the video, halfway through the video, and finishing the video, my day just got better. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but whenever you have that tale in which that it's just like, I think the interview continues to improve and it actually just enriches my day. So I have to say that is my review of this interview itself. Wholesome as all get out. Completely enjoyed it. Now, they did not mention WoW specifically. Here's where I think they didn't do that. Square Enix has a business relationship with Blizzard. YoshiP has obviously credited WoW for many, many, many things. And Asmon and Rich, very well known for WoW. I don't think there's any value in actually bringing that up. If they had mentioned it some point in that hour-long interview, it completely slipped my ears. But they would talk about other games. However, a game that they did take a lot of time talking about is New World and how YoshiP, I don't know why I'm stuttering today, plans to play it after the release of Endwalker. I think that is thrilling, exciting. I can't wait to see what that looks like at the end of the day, because he talked about how, in a way, that these games help give inspiration to game developers playing games, just like you and I. We play a game and we get game ideas like, oh man, I really like this aspect from this game, and I really like that aspect from that game. And I think, YoshiP and his team are no different. In fact, YoshiP has a dedicated team basically, gathering information about other games that are going on to find really good ideas and find ways to implement them within Final Fantasy XIV. So I'm thrilled that he's going to spend some time with New World. I can't wait to see what he takes away from that. Because my experience, and you guys have been following this channel, you're already subscribed, then I talk about New World here. My experience has been, like, as a Final Fantasy XI player, it is really scratching that itch. Like, it is so different from 14 that it gives this different perspective, and I'm enjoying that aspect, because if it was just the same as 14, like, my review would be then, like, why would you play it? Like, you've already got that game. So I'm happy that they're going in a different direction with this game, and then it has enough familiarity. So I think YoshiP is going to be pretty excited, because if you guys don't know, and YoshiP talked about it in the interview, he's really kind of a hardcore MMO player. He likes that real social, real grindy aspect to the game itself. And so I think there's a lot of things that they could be inspired by without ruining what people love about Final Fantasy XIV. But obviously, like, all that stuff is going to take time. So I don't think we're going to see an impact of New World on 14 anytime soon, but we could see it over the course of the next 10 years. And that's kind of the thing that I keep harping back to, is YoshiP talking about how They're going to spare no expense when it comes to Final Fantasy 14. And in playing New World, you cannot tell me that Square Enix can't make that. You cannot tell me that if Square Enix wanted to, that they couldn't make a Final Fantasy version with, I mean, that level of detail, because they've done it before. They just haven't done it in an MMO fashion. And honestly, I'd be very curious. But there's so many challenges. That phrase alone, like, I think just that phrase, if executed, would be like easily $300 million. Like, there's just the amount of human resources, work, effort, and more. Like, it is a massive undertaking, not to mention the headaches. So don't, rush to think that Square Enix is like building out this massive new MMO, like what we maybe theoretically call 17. I still think there's something going on behind the scenes, and we'll get to that here later in this video. I'll try to keep it short, but I was really thrilled that he's going to be taking time to play New World. I can't wait to see what he thinks about the game, because, him both in charge of Final Fantasy and him as an MMO player, I think that's going to be a real key takeaway. They kind of dive into, obviously, this concept of casual versus hardcore. This is a really interesting takeaway. They talk about, like, YoshiP being a hardcore gamer, and obviously, like, he wants those real hardcore elements. But I've said this, YoshiP is basically saying in here that there isn't a casual versus hardcore, but there is there's a symbiotic relationship, right? Like, without the casual audience, a game struggles to, have and support a hardcore one. So you have to have content for both. You have to have a system in which that everybody's, getting something. And so they talked about kind of like, here's the patches where you get the raids, and here's the patches where you get, obviously kind of the more, casual content that, appeals to, different sets of audiences. And I think that's where we see the surge with Final Fantasy 14 and its growth over the last couple of months, but its continual growth since, obviously, like, from Heavensward being at Heavensward was like around 4 million. So now we're at 24 million players publicly, that within that game, like, that's 20 million players that have come and played Final Fantasy. That's not counting the free trials. That's people who've at least purchased the base game, which is thrilling to see. And we can't wait to see them grow. He's got a goal to get that to 30 million. And I think he's going to obviously hit that. And, assuming we get servers, Endwalker, and time, that's, I think, a guarantee. But then they kind of talk about, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because YoshiP talks about taking breaks, right? Like, yeah, okay, you got a raid in 6.0, and you get a next raid in 6.2. If you're really not enjoying 6.1, take a break. And YoshiP's continually stated that. And I think it's a really good thing in general, like, for health. I think MMO players, the fact that we've seen kind of the collapse of WoW, and it's not like it's gone, but it just kind of means that maybe one wonder if we'll see a landscape where there's no king of the hill, where there's just a bunch of different ideas, and then a genre that ends up becoming very healthy because you have players willing to play more than one game. And I think essentially that's going to be what's interesting. However, YoshiP says that I don't think Final Fantasy 14 actually is geared up to let you take a break if you own a house. And it's that element, the home ownership element of Final Fantasy 14, that is antithetical, that is contradictory to what YoshiP says by taking breaks, because you will lose your house, and it is not an easy aspect to get it. Now, maybe that will get fixed here in the future, and YoshiP and them are working on it. And I think if that gets addressed, then YoshiP words actually, I think, really echo truthfulness. Like, I don't think he's lying to us. I just think that game design and what YoshiP's vision is, they're still not there. They're still not in alignment. Hopefully that makes some sense there. But at the end of the day, like, the systems are what they are, and you can take a break, but you probably mean, it really is more like, take a break, but don't unsub, and there's other ways. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that in the future. Now, they dive into kind of the concept of more hardcore content. And this is something that's been asked and asked and asked. And I think, and I'm hoping, because YoshiP was kind of surprised that people were saddened by the lack of no deep dungeon in Shadowbringers, and maybe with the fact that they've been able to take a year off, and he's going to look to make sure that it gets an Endwalker. We still don't have word on that. This is going to kind of tie into the last kind of final thoughts, especially as we gear up to 6.1. But that, 4-player challenging content, and players are finding that kind of content, like in the going after the Necromancer title, in doing these ultimates, and people are wanting something, of that ilk. And I think that's going to be something interesting. But that's where YoshiP then goes into talking about 6.1. Now, when you look at Asmon and Rich's interview, like, solely, that's, it's a good answer. But when you go look at a lot of the other interviews, I have this feeling. I just get this gut feeling, and let me know if you get this feeling too. But I get this gut feeling that there's something building that YoshiP is going to drop on us after the release of Endwalker. And the reason I think that, I've been thinking this has been going on for a while, since especially Stormblood. And I've stated so publicly multiple times. And it'd be great if I was right. Who knows if we will end up seeing that, if that's the case. But I've always felt like behind the scenes, there is just a big drive about the game and its systems and doing these things that we're moving forward. And YoshiP in multiple interviews talks about, like, we're going to talk about the future in 6.1. And I think when we see and finish 6.0, the story, the expansion, honestly, I'm wondering if we're going to see something akin to what YoshiP originally sat down with us when he talked about 2.0, kind of their design documents, what their goals, what their visions are for the game. And I think that's going to be critical. I think that's kind of, and I'm trying not to set my expectations to ludicrous, but now I'm starting to sit here with a lot of the conversation pushing towards 6.1. If nothing else, like if we're not getting massive system overhauls, if we're not getting engine overhauls, like at the end of the day, we don't know what we're going to get. And anything can change on in the blink of an eye. But if nothing else, I think we're going to start, and YoshiP is going to start laying out his plan for the next 5 and 10 years of the game. And I think that's really important because we've been in this cycle of what to expect, and we're now stepping into a whole world of unknown. And it's that unknown that's both scary and exciting. And I can't wait to see what he's got planned. I think still we're going to get our raids. I think we're still going to get like our content updates, but between 6.1 and 7.0, it's going to be a whole new ball game. And I think it's going to be some interesting time that lets them experiment, lets them try new things, lets them kind of take a breath. But I think it's still at the same time, YoshiP doesn't do anything on, all of a sudden, things that they've been working on for years as already a part of that plan. Like they wrote this story for Endwalker when Shadowbringers came out. So just note, like all of this has been prepped and ready. And then they're ready to start to share what they've been working on behind the scenes. So I'm personally really excited to see it. I'm sure that you will be as well. If you guys are curious, the next big update coming from the team is November 5th. We're going to be covering it live here on Ginger Prime and over on Work the Games Twitch. Hopefully you stick around and hang out with us for that event. We'll be sure to talk and share that with you as we know more. But the final thought I want to talk about is 11 years covering this game. It's kind of crazy. We just celebrated my 11th anniversary, and I've been covering this game since 2009. And this is something I've been very excited since they announced it. And YoshiP talked about like the disappointment and how he had to rebuild trust. But one of the real key things that a lot of players might not experience or not know is that Square Enix used to not communicate the way that they did. And a lot of game companies don't communicate the way Square Enix does. And what YoshiP has done is in his communication style with his letters, his live letters, he answers the tough questions and he goes into detail enough so that as a player, we're not left to speculate too much. As a content creator, we're especially not meant to speculate too much. I've seen it time and time again, especially when a company's quiet, especially when there's no news, that content still is going to get made. And, whether you want to think that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just the way that the world is. So I'm not stating a fact of good or bad. I'm just stating that's what happens. So you see in a lot of communities, a lot of content creators like make up what is, the reasoning, and they go into that. YoshiP gets out in front of that and he goes into great detail. So that way, whenever I encounter somebody online who is, angry about a certain aspect of the game, it happens a lot. I get to ask them, like, why are you so upset? And they say, oh, da 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 da. And I go, oh, interesting. Well, did you know YoshiP talked about why this is not the way and this is what they've looked into? It ends up just helping diffuse that situation 9 times out of 10. There's still obviously the random person who, the chaos role in which that they're just mad to be mad and they're just going to go do their thing. But for the most part, it's that either the information hasn't got to them, but their own expectations or speculation, etc., from an individual, whether it's one person or a community of people, like they get out of line, they get out of whack. And so having the fact that YoshiP will spend so much time answering like, hey, they've looked into it. Here are the problems. Here's what they're going to look at. And yeah, it becomes down to resources and timing and more. Like as a longtime, advocate for Final Fantasy 14 coming to Xbox, we're still waiting for Final Fantasy 14 coming to Xbox. This is still a thing we're waiting on. And ultimately, it's going to be something we're going to have to keep waiting on. But YoshiP's talked about it. He's given us information, and it's become more clear with time, but he's still continuing to give us information about why it's not now, that there's no more roadblocks, that it is a matter of development resources on their end. And to my end, I say, come on, Microsoft, like, write the damn check. Let's go. That's just me. Anyway, I think that YoshiP has, and again, it comes down to, especially when communication comes down to trust, a video game in a way, players with the developer. The reason why certain communities are the way they are, it's like, comes down to trust. It's not only do you have good game armor to help kind of just like deflect, I guess rocks being hurled at you, but you also have developers who are willing to answer those questions. Why are builds being deleted? Why is this happening? Why are we having a stat squish and an expansion? And then it talks about the next 10 years. So it gives you something of a reason behind it, what they've looked into, and then why it's, and how we're going to benefit in the long run. Not all of this is instant. Sometimes it takes years and years and years to build up. But at some point, it feels like we're always moving forward, and there's this dialogue that we're having. It's not just players shouting into a void, and then the void just kind of spits out some kind of thing, and then you question whether they're listening or not. Maybe that's happened with some of y'all, but if it has, let me know. I always like to try to make sure that we're bringing up the topics that people really care about, and trying to amplify what we can, even if I don't agree with it. It's one of the great thrills of my life when people are like, Brian believes this. And it's like, actually, I don't believe it, but there is a section of the community that would love to see that. Let me amplify that, because I think it's about the conversation more than it's about one dominating perspective about video games. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. For returning subscribers, like I said, you've unlocked the title of Lord of the Blue Mage. It's special. It's rare. It's the first time I've given it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy your new title. Rep it in the comments, or rep it randomly. Tell your vet about it. I'm sure that they're going to be just as confused, but if they're actually a subscriber here on the channel, they'll know what's up. Maybe they'll come watch the video so they can get that title as well. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks to all the members. Thanks to everybody who's hopefully enjoyed this video. And I'll see you next time. I was about to say, like, I'll see you soon, and then and then next time came out. So then my brain got confused. But either way, love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.